Okay, thank you all very much. I've been married 51 years. Thank you. Another imaginary number. So, sometimes people ask me, how did you know he was the one? And of course, at the time I didn't know. I was living my life in real time like everybody does. But now I can look back and see some clues. So I'd like to talk to you about 3 of those clues. Son, button, and graduation. So son, the first time my future husband called me, I told him that we were about to throw a surprise birthday party on our dorm floor. Could I call him back in 30 minutes? So he said, sure. So I called him back in 30 minutes, and we talked for 3 hours. Now he told me later that 2 things about that request surprised him. One thing was that I asked to call him back instead of expecting him to call me again. I said, you need to date a better class of women. The second thing that surprised him was that I said I would call him back in 30 minutes, and I called him back in 30 minutes. Now, I lived in Texas for 6 years, so I picked up a little attitude there. But before that, I was born in Chicago, and I lived in the Midwest. Midwesterners don't play games. We're practical. What you see is what you get. We're down to earth. So I thought, of course I said 30 minutes, and I called him back in 30 minutes. Of course, doesn't everybody do that? But he upped the game. On that 3-hour conversation, he asked me if I wanted to go tobogganing. And I said, well, it's January in Michigan, but there's no snow on the ground. Can you really go tobogganing with no snow? And he said, well, I'm from Georgia. They tell me I control the sun. I will turn it off. That was on a Tuesday night. On Thursday, it started snowing. We had 27 inches of snow. The roads were closed. The schools closed for snow for the first time in its history. We could not get to the toboggan run. So we loaded up the toboggan with beer, dragged it to his apartment, and had a party. We have still never been tobogganing. So button. So the clue is, can he take care of himself? So some time along the way when we were dating, my boyfriend sewed a button on his coat and showed me how you sew buttons on a coat. I actually didn't know. I could sew a button on a shirt. You just stitch it, wrap the thread around the button and attach it to the shirt. But for a coat, it's a little bit different. You have to leave the thread long so there's enough room between the button and the placket of the coat to button it. I didn't know that. So you would think, okay, that's pretty straightforward. For a guy, that'd be pretty straightforward, button, thread, coat. But for a woman, we need stories. And the story that came out of this experience was, I will not have to do all the domestic chores in this household. So that was the second clue. The third clue was graduation. So you want to know about a guy. Young women are told, you cannot change a guy. And that's pretty much true. People are who they are. You can't change them fundamentally. However, you would like to know you have some influence over them, that they can be trained. This is how I found out that my future husband was trainable. He told me he wasn't going to go to graduation. He said, I don't see any point. There are 9,000 people graduating at Michigan State University in my class. We don't walk across the stage. We don't even get our diplomas, they mail them to us. Why should I show up at graduation? And I said, you're the oldest child in your family and the only son. Your parents want to see you graduate. So he relented. They drove from Georgia to Michigan to watch him graduate. And you know what? Even though Ruth and Fox never thanked me because they got to see their son graduate, they welcomed a damn Yankee into their family, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you very much. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube, Carol Covin. Thank you.